This video is about what I consider to be pretty poor practice, and in this case in respect of 3, the network provider, but it could just as easily apply to others. And the situation is this: someone was paying for their mobile phone by direct debit, only they had a technical issue with the bank, and therefore the payments failed. Now, instead of getting in touch with the customer, which, let's face it, would have been easy because 3 is literally in the telecommunications industry, 3 simply cancelled the direct debit, meaning that any further payment attempts obviously would not be made against the outstanding balance, and any further payments would not be made, meaning further that this would reflect on the credit report of the individual, because essentially those payments would have been missed and thus reported to credit reference agencies as missed payments. Now, in this case, it was simply a technical issue at the bank, meaning there was money in the account. It's just that the bank didn't allow the payment to go, although literally a day or 2 after that event, the bank would have let the payments go. But in this case, 3 was unable to take the payments and therefore cancelled the direct debit. The problem with this, obviously, was that the customer was not aware that the direct debit had been cancelled, terminated, and that no further payments would be requested or taken. There was no email to warn that payment had failed. There was no text message to warn that payment had failed. There was no phone call to warn that payment had failed or to request payment or an alternative payment method. Thus, the customer had no idea that it was necessary to contact 3 and re-establish the direct debit details, because quite obviously they were unaware that it had been cancelled in the first place. Now, the upshot of this is that additional charges might be placed on the account, because originally there was a discount for paying by direct debit, which obviously was no longer the case since it had cancelled the direct debit. But more importantly, if any missed payments were reported to credit reference agencies, then this might have a significant effect on that person's ability to obtain credit in the future, because whilst it might only be 1 or 2 missed payments for a relatively small amount, it is still an ongoing credit arrangement. And if that person, let's say, was in the middle of a mortgage application or some other kind of credit application, and this new missed payment was reported on the credit reference file, then it might well have detrimental and significant effects on that person's ability to obtain credit, all of which could have been avoided if 3 simply contacted the customer to request updated payment details. Thus, at which point the customer could have made clear that it was simply a technical issue at the bank, which was resolved within 24 to 48 hours or so. So this is a warning to all of you watching that if you pay for your mobile phone by way of direct debit, particularly with 3, as was the case here, but also with any other provider, you may want to regularly check now that these payments actually do come out of your account. Even for those that do check very regularly, you might miss such a payment. Such as a payment that I had to actually query the other day because I didn't recognize the transaction. I believe it to have been one of my regular subscriptions, but there was no reference against the payment that was taken from the account. But at the same time, if you dispute a payment on your account that actually later turns out to be perfectly legitimate, this might also reflect on your credit file as a fraud marker, that you reported a transaction as fraud that actually turned out to be perfectly genuine. So once again, my warning to you is to keep a check on your bank accounts, your bank statements, your transactions. Make sure that those that are coming out are genuine and that they are real transactions. But now also you have to keep an eye out for those transactions that don't come out of your account, because in this case the direct debit was cancelled, the customer had no idea, the payments were not made, and potentially, which will remain to be seen, whether that gets reflected on the credit record or not, all of which could have been avoided with a simple phone call. So let me know any instances like this that have affected you and that you want to share with me and with other viewers of this channel in the comment section below. Please remember to like the video and subscribe. That really helps my channel grow, and as always, thank you for watching.